The consequences of your actions depends on what you do in a specific point in time. This can be related to as a three-part system known as antecedent, behavior, and then consequence. These are ABA principles. If you're not familiar with ABA, it is simply known as applied behavior analysis. And this is how you get to shaping your behavior or shaping someone else's behavior to do something more productive or get them to engage in a specific behavior you want. The thing about ABA is you can apply this to yourself. If you behave in a way, this will always lead to a certain end result. One of the basic fundamentals in ABA principles is behavior goes where reinforcement flows. So if you get some kind of gratification from a certain behavior that you have, you're going to continue engaging in that and then getting a certain consequence or a certain set of results. Now, when we apply ABA principles into letting go of your past, into manifestation even, and metaphysics, we can bring these principles into a deeper layer of your life, into the area of your subconscious mind and the parts that you are not aware of that are causing you to behave a certain way. On my channel, I help you let go of your past by applying ancient myths, allegories, philosophical ideas in a way where you can apply them to yourself on a very individual level. So applied behavior analysis depends a lot on data input. Let's say you want to reduce the instances of you getting angry or reduce the instances of you doing a specific behavior. Now you can track how many times you do this, and then over time you can take steps into actually reducing the behavior. This is the way that applied behavior analysis works. So you can track a behavior over time, see whether or not the intervention that you're putting in is actually reducing the behavior or increasing it. And this is important to consider because many times we try to do things that actually increase behaviors over time. With all the information we have out there in the internet, sometimes you can hear things like, well, you need to do this trick or this technique in order for you to get where you have to be. But everyone is different. And sometimes one trick that works for someone will not work for somebody else, and it'll make someone actually feel worse about themselves. And I'll give you an example. Now, generally, when you get into manifestation or self-help or things like this, we can misinterpret this idea and assume that we always have to be happy all the time. And then we can actually feel worse because we feel like we must be happy. And then this just makes us feel miserable because we feel like we can't accomplish this. So at the end of the day, this only serves to increase our behaviors of becoming upset. So this is all about changing who you are, changing your behaviors, and then changing your habits in order to have different results at the end of the day. If every time you get upset, you do a specific thing, and then that thing always happens afterwards, then that's always going to continue to happen. You're perpetually stuck in a pattern that will not break unless you change the behavior. And most importantly, if you cannot change the behavior, then you must change the antecedent, the thing that comes even before the behavior. And to me, this is where it gets very interesting because sometimes your antecedent can be subconscious. So what this means is this. Before you even engage in a behavior, there is something that sets you off. There is an antecedent. There is a cause before the effect. Now, if your cause to becoming upset always is seeing your bank account, for example, because it stresses you out that you have no money, then you will engage in a behavior that reflects that. That is your antecedent. And then because you reacted in that way, there will be a certain effect after that. So your antecedent was looking at your bank account. Because you saw your bank account, you become upset. Now that you're upset, you go home and then you yell at everyone around you because you're stressed out. This is how that works. And this will always continue to happen unless you do something to actively break the chain. The reason that these go unnoticed is because we generally don't stop and think about what got us upset on a deep level. Many times we go straight to the behavior and then this comes up and creeps on us. And before we know it, we're going on a whole whirlwind and a downward spiral. Now, the reason this keeps happening is because there is some sort of reinforcement that we get. So let's say we become very upset. Now, usually there has to be some kind of expression when we are angry. Now, this can come in the form of yelling at other people. And many times we do yell at other people when we become upset. This is a form of reinforcement because we're getting some kind of expression out. So it feels good to do this. So this is why generally we continue following the same behaviors that we do because we get those reinforcements. It's sort of like a child when they have a temper tantrum, they get what they want in the end sometimes. They can do this for attention. They can do this for tangibles, for objects, or simply because it just feels good. There is a motivation that is very specific to you that you have to find out what that thing is so that you can begin to break those habits. When you want to stop a specific behavior in ABA, This is known as putting a behavior on extinction. This is used to decrease or eliminate a behavior altogether. And before you get into extinction, you have to get into shaping, which is the process of learning new behaviors. So in order to shape yourself and start behaving differently so that you can get different results, you got to introduce the behaviors slowly, because this takes some time. You want to reward yourself for implementing new behaviors slowly, and then over time, you will begin to master a certain behavior. And the good thing about this is you can apply this to any area in life, whether that's wanting to be more productive in the house, wanting to take care of yourself better, go to the gym, or actually change a specific emotional idea or belief you have about yourself. You can apply it across many realms. So as you begin to shape a new behavior, then you can build off of the new behaviors that you have. So with the example I mentioned earlier, if you always get stressed out because you look at your bank account, if you're always stressed about money, then you would make it an effort to look at your bank account and then specifically not get upset because you see it. You would change the behavior that you have. So for example, you would open your bank account on your app or whatever it is that you look at your bank account. And then you would make it an effort to either feel indifferent about it or not feel as upset as you would be normally. And you can practice doing this, and over time, you will make incremental steps to changing the actual behavior that you have until you finally are able to put that behavior on extinction. So applying this to yourself will directly change the way that you act, behave, and think, because you are breaking subconscious patterns that you continue to follow and will always lead you to the same result. If becoming upset about your life causes your life to be worse, then that is what you're always going to continue to do. You need to be very careful as well on what you hear and what technique works best for you. As I mentioned before, if a certain technique or thing causes you to feel worse, then you have to watch that within yourself. If, for example, somebody says you must always be positive, and then you realizing that you're not always positive all the time causes you to feel more upset, then that's something that you should not do. The antecedent in this case would be that you are trying to be positive and then realizing you are not. So rather than do this, you have to do something else. And now you are changing the antecedent. This will lead you into a different behavior, into a new consequence at the end. So now these slow and steady behaviors that you are developing will cause you to be a new person. It's important to know the behaviors that you have within yourself that cause you to fall and cause you to feel worse and cause you to not hit the mark you want in your life. It can come in the form of anger, it can be fear, it can be doubt, it can be the feeling of not being good enough. There's so many things that can get in the way from you achieving more in your life. So with this method of self-analysis, with analyzing your behaviors and changing them, you are not running away from them, you're not ignoring them, and you're not pushing them to the side. You are looking straight at them and you are integrating them. You are changing them directly. What's important in this process as well is that you do not get angry. You simply look at your behaviors as a matter-of-fact thing, just as simple behaviors, as data points. You look at yourself and you realize that this is what you do. This is who you are, and there's nothing wrong with that. Many times we can see ourselves on paper, or when we really think about it, we can put ourselves in a hole and say, wow, I am missing so many things and I need to do better. And then we end up feeling worse about ourselves. But that's not the point. The point is to look at our behaviors, and then we're supposed to integrate them into ourselves and then transform them. We cannot do this by becoming angry at ourselves and then just ignoring them and throwing them to the side. The whole point is to overcome them. And part of overcoming is accepting our behaviors for what they are so that we can change them. Another thing that can happen that's very interesting in ABA is something that's called extinction burst. Now, when you have successfully put a behavior on extinction, let's say that you have mastered yourself from becoming upset at looking at your bank account again. What'll happen from time to time is you will become upset out of nowhere, seemingly, because you saw your bank account again. Now, this is known as an extinction burst, and this happens naturally. This means that your mind, or your subconscious mind, is trying to bring back an old way of being back into your life. So you can feel like you've changed. And now your past is always trying to creep up on you and bring your old patterns back into existence. Now, what you're supposed to do is continue on in your regular activities, because you can actually revert back into your old way of being. So now when it comes to manifestation, this can happen to many of us. We can feel like things are going well. We've done all the right things. We've done all the right techniques. We feel great and everything is going fine. Then all of a sudden, one bad thing happens to take everything out of balance. And then we want to go back into our old way of being. And this is sort of the universe trying to make sure that we are staying consistent in the way that we are. It's an extinction burst. We just must continue moving forward. And that is a time for you to prove to yourself that you have truly changed and you are ready to continue to move forward. This is nothing to be alarmed at, and this is nothing to be scared of. It is a completely normal process in behavior analysis, and it's completely normal in every facet of life. As you try to become new, as you try to become better, there will be always something that will remind you of your past. Whether that's a certain thing that happens, whether that's a certain place you go to, a certain person that reminds you of your past, or someone telling you who you used to be. So it's our job to create a new identity for ourselves, because nobody will ever do that for us. No one will ever care enough for you to make you want to change. No one will actually care enough for you to make the steps to actually change your behavior and change who you are. It's all done by you. So when it comes to manifestation, you, your subconscious, and yourself, and creating the life that you want, it's all about who you are, and this will transform your life itself. But who you are is made up of ideas, beliefs, and habits. Your habits lead into certain behaviors that always cause you to have a certain end result. And this is why things don't happen, because we stay stuck in our habits. We stay stuck in who we used to be. And essentially, this is who we stay, and this is who we are. We just stay one person perpetually, and as time goes on, it just keeps going. Now, in a typical fashion that I always do, I'm going to share a story with you about overcoming your past and integrating yourself in order to move forward in your life. So this story is about the Greek goddess Persephone. She is the Greek goddess of the underworld and of spring. Persephone was the daughter of Zeus and Demeter, Demeter being the goddess of the harvest. So one day, Persephone was abducted by Hades, who is the god of the underworld. Hades kidnapped her in order for her to be his queen and rule over the underworld itself. So now Demeter, Persephone's mom, who is the goddess of the harvest, stopped crops from growing in all of the world. So the world itself was barren, and there was nothing to be had because she was in grief that her daughter was missing. So now Persephone being kidnapped in the underworld, she spent some time being upset at her circumstances. She felt sad because she's been abducted and now she's away from her parents. But over time, slowly Persephone started to embrace her role in this underworld. So now her time here is beginning to transform her. Instead of being overcome by the underworld, she's coming to understand the ways of the underworld. So now rather than being a victim of being down there, she is embracing her role as the queen of the underworld. So now Persephone's mother, Demeter, was in so much grief. What they did was come up with a compromise. Because obviously she didn't want her daughter to stay in the underworld, but now that she has embraced her role, it's kind of that's who she is now. So the agreement is that Persephone would spend part of the year, spring and summer, with her mother, and then go back to the underworld, fall and winter. And this represents the cycle of transformation that we have. And this is the grand scheme of things, the great cycle of death and rebirth. Spring, summer, then fall and winter, and then all over again. This is perfectly represented in all of us. Being that spring and summer are the times when we harvest. We harvest the fruits of our labors, our good intentions, our ideas and beliefs, where every single idea and belief comes into fruition as a consequence. And then fall and winter being the hardships in our lives, our past self trying to bring us down. So as I mentioned earlier, Persephone being the goddess of spring is very important, and her mother being the goddess of the harvest. Because symbolically, when it comes to yourself, you cannot have a harvest until you come out of winter. And winter is represented by the darkness in your life, or going into the underworld. And many times we are in the underworld going through these harsh feelings that we have, which cause us to act in certain ways. So we are in the underworld. So it's not until we get out of the underworld where we have the harvest that we're looking for, or our manifestation in our life, or that thing we want in our life. But that is the main issue. We can feel trapped knowing that we are stuck in our current circumstances, that we are a certain way. And we can feel like there's no way out. But rather than feel like we're stuck, it's important to learn from every single situation that happens to us in every experience so that we can get out. So we can have many ideas, many plans, many aspirations that we would like to accomplish. But seeds never grow in the winter time. This is the time where the land is frozen. This is the time when everything is frozen and everything feels stuck. It's not until spring that the ice melts and those seeds, those aspirations, those beliefs, and those ideas that you have are allowed to spring forth. And then over time, in the summer, they can actually take root and become big plants. So now your ideas, aspirations have taken form. So rather than be upset at who you are, your circumstances, just take a look at them and then break them down and then make small steps to integrate them into yourself so that you can then change who you are slowly over time. Then you will reach the springtime and the summertime in your life, that everlasting glory where you can achieve whatever it is that you want because now you have the tools to do so. There's no need to be harsh with yourself. There's no need to force yourself to do anything. It just requires a good look at yourself, looking at your actual behaviors, looking at your actual subconscious patterns and seeing what makes you tick and seeing what gets in the way of what you would like for yourself. You can lay it all down on paper. You can do it whichever way you want. But this is the trick, seeing how your behaviors themselves get in the way of what you want. And once you see what it is, you can make those steps into changing. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave comments in the comment section below. I'll be more than happy to answer any comments you guys have. Like this video and subscribe so you can get more content like this. And thank you guys for watching.